At the time, Brian Williams was in his early 30s and serving as a Chief Petty Officer on board HMS Sheffield. Take me back to the outbreak of the Falklands conflict. What do you remember?
We didn't know much about it. We'd been away for 6-9 months on a Gulf patrol on the Sheffield. We were on our way home and I was pulled out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning by my boss, who said, "We're going south."
So you're heading home, you're on the verge of going home and seeing your friends and family, and you turn south. How did that make you feel?
The bottom sort of drops out of your world a bit, but all your training and leads towards a sense of duty. And while I joined the Navy for a trade to see the world, there was also this might happen as well. And it was one of those things, you have to go where you're sent. On the 4th of May 1982, Brian's ship, HMS Sheffield, was hit by an Argentine missile and caught fire. The ship rocked, and there was nothing out of character. That's all I felt. The missile had come in board the opposite side to where I was. It was just after lunch. I was in my office, and when I opened the door, I could not see out. It was like cotton wool, black cotton wool, the smoke. Couldn't quite believe my eyes. Shut the door, got on the intercom to my boss. He said, "Stay where you are for as long as you can." So I did. The smoke then started coming in, so I donned respirator and started to crawl around through all the smoke. And me being me, and the brain tells you to do funny things, instead of going out, I went down. I was feeling around in the dark and the smoke. I found a body. I don't know who it was. I don't know whether they were alive or dead. I couldn't get any response, and he was a big chap. I couldn't shift him. And by that time, my lungs were really, really painful. So I had to get out myself. So I went back up the ladder. It turned out he was one of the chiefs in my mess. So that's another cross to bear. He was a friend of mine. HMS Arrow came alongside us to help us with the firefighting, and then a diesel tank exploded and it all started again, and the order was given to abandon ship. The saddest moment of my life was when the Arrow cast off and turned away, and the Sheffield was just there, getting smaller and smaller, with smoke pouring out of her, lifeless. The people who were still on board, my shipmates, left behind. We lost 20 people that day. Not a day goes by without thinking about them. Their memories are still fresh. Everyone who goes to war comes back changed in some way. It's the price of freedom.
It must have been a traumatic experience. Did it ever make you question your faith?
I'm firmly of the belief that a faith that cannot be questioned, cannot be stretched, cannot grow, is a brittle faith, and when someone comes up and asks those awkward questions, it will break. And that's become more and more apparent to me, especially after putting a collar on. After leaving the Navy in the late 1980s, Brian felt he needed to give something back and trained to be a vicar. He was ordained in 1991.
Do you think what you went through in the Falklands has made you a better vicar?
It's certainly given me a wider perspective on the value of life. Life is worth fighting for on behalf of those who can't fight for themselves, and whether that's in something like the Falklands, it's just helping those who are in need.
It's service, isn't it?
It's service.
This is a day when we remember those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for service. What does remembrance mean to you?
Remembrance is something, it's different from memory. Remembrance touches the heart and the soul. And for me, not a day goes past that I don't remember those still on patrol down south in those Falkland waters. And it's something that everyone needs to be aware of.
They need to know that cost, that people are prepared to give themselves for you. That's what it means for me. He did it for you.
Now, our next hymn is Thy Hand, O God, Has Guided. What does that mean to you?
Well, like all these great hymns, when you have a rousing voice that lifts the roof, it draws you in, and then the words take on a whole new meaning, and you can't help but sing them. And that's what these old but gold hymns mean to me, of that magical quality of lifting the spirit. Yes, love it.
The gold